Okay, we've got the new holes drilled and tapped in the cylinder, and you can see where I installed a brass plug in original holes and then moved the holes so the governor would be parallel with the engine. It was off quite a little bit, but I believe this repair will be just fine. Everything lines up. I had this bolted on the crosshead already. Everything lines up perfectly. There was a hole that was stripped out. I believe it was that one right there. No, it wasn't either. It was on the top. It was this one right here. I repaired it the same way. I drilled it oversized, put a 1032 screw in there and Loctited it in, then filed it off flat, flush with the cylinder body, then re-tapped it, drilled and tapped it 632. So all those screws on the exhaust port will be corrected. And doing some further inspection on this engine, the bore is 1 3/4 inches. And I noticed this piston when I was wiping everything, cleaning everything up. The piston, steel part of the piston here is all shined up. And I did some measuring on this, and this is just a little bit out of round. This was actually scuffing the inside of the cylinder. You've got 2 brass piston rings in there, and also on this part of the piston you can see a shiny spot here also. So I'm thinking that this piston is not quite aligned. The outside of this piston is not quite aligned with the piston rod, because this really needs to have some clearance. See, you can see on this side it hasn't been scuffing. So I'm going to take this out and do some measuring and checking and see what we've got. Also, I mentioned earlier there's grooves in this valve, and when I had air on, I was getting a lot of leakage out of the valve. So I'm going to install some O-rings on this to see if that takes care of the leakage, as well as making the engine run a little smoother. Well, this engine didn't have any gaskets in it at all. So I believe I'm going to make some thin gaskets for inside of these, between the crosshead and the spacer and the spacer and this actual cylinder. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of leakage there. So we'll proceed with that next.